So hello my friends, Devon Lennox here, PhotographyPX. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to get perfectly smooth and even backdrops using Beautify and Adobe Photoshop. All right, so here we are in Adobe Photoshop. The photo is loaded up. And let me kind of show you guys what I mean by when I say smooth and even backdrop. So this is the original here. Let me kind of zoom in a little bit as well. So you can see what I'm talking about. There's just a lot of stuff going on back here with the ripples. I don't really know what was going on with this paper specifically. It was dirty, and I didn't really smooth out the paper that well when I had rolled it on the ground. I'm not really sure. I didn't see that in real life when we're shooting for whatever reason, but it came up here as soon as we took the shot. So how to kind of smoothen that out. I do realize there's some color issues here. This is not a perfect example, making it absolutely perfect. I don't want to spend 20 or 30 minutes just trying to make a backdrop perfect here. I just wanted to show you guys the basic fundamentals of how you can go about doing this. This is very easy to fix, just using a brush and making it hue saturation and just painting over that area to change the saturation and hue, and you can get perfectly even blemish section right here. But essentially this is what I'm gonna show you guys how to do, is kind of just soften the backdrop, get rid of a lot of the blemishes and the unevenness in your backdrops when you're shooting in a studio situation. And we're going to be doing that using Beautify. So with Beautify, this is mostly for skin retouching and face and stuff like that, but I kind of figured, like, why not use it more creatively to accentuate different parts of your subject or your background or your set or things of that nature. So I wanted to do a video on how to really use it as a tool to fix up and maybe modify your backdrops. So how did I do this? After photos loaded up, I went into A/B retouch, and I'm using plastic skin. Essentially what plastic skin is doing, it's doing a surface blur. It's duplicating your layer. It's applying a surface blur to that layer, and then it's just setting a mask. And then it allows you, the user, essentially to just paint using B for your brush tool, the areas that you want the surface blur to affect. So the first and foremost, we're going to be using this technique to soften out the blemishes of the background, the unevenness in the seams, and if there's any blotchiness in the color. The surface blur is a tool that you can use to fix not only blotchiness when it comes to texture, but also blotchiness in color as well. For whatever reason, it seems to affect both of those things, not to the same extent, but it does work to even out both of those things quite well. So that's first and foremost, and you can see the difference in terms of what that's made. Now, the obvious thing here is that when you're using a blur tool or a filter, you're going to lose a lot of texture. So we need to bring that back in a way that makes sense and it looks realistic. So how we're gonna do that, by default, this is set to 75%. We're gonna drop that down to 60 or 50% so that it's not as, it's not as blurred. There's a little bit more texture that's kept. But more so than that, we're gonna do two things. One, we're gonna actually use the retouching panel over here, various retouching. We're gonna add grain. Essentially, I've done a video on this, which should be on our channel already, but it adds a grain filter to your image, and it adds a mask is what it's doing. And then we're going to paint a little bit of grain, and especially in this bottom section down here where she's on the same focus plane as where we originally focused and took the shot. Everything else before her and after her will be out of focus. So we just need to make sure that we're adding grain to that area specifically. And you guys might not even be able to see this. It's very subtle, but that's essentially what it's doing. Now, obviously, it's just way too much grain. We don't need that much, maybe somewhere between 40 to 50%, just to add a little bit more texture to that area so it doesn't look as blurred out. There's just nothing going on. Another thing that you can do, besides doing that as well, you can also go back here in A/B retouching, and you can use the, where's the smart contrast? Smart contrast, and I'm gonna drop this down here. And essentially smart contrast is just adding a contrast adjustment layer, and then it's adding a mask by default. And then you can also add a little bit more contrast down here as well. Let me see if I can show you what that's gonna do. All right. And that'll add a little bit more contrast down to that bottom section. And it'll accentuate the difference between the highlights and shadows. Let me see if I can kind of, it's mostly picking up her shoes, but it'll also accentuate the shadow that's over here. That'll help a little bit, especially when coupled with a grain. That will definitely help to bring a little bit of contrast down to that area. But yeah, let me group these and I'll show you guys the before and after. Then that's how you get more clean and even backdrops. Now there's some additional techniques you can work on here. And I think I've done a video on cleaning up backdrops and you know, changing things with hue, saturation, luminance. If I haven't done a video on that, I will definitely put that on my queue to knock out for you guys in the next week or so. Get that taken care of too, so you can get more even backdrops, get rid of these seams, make sure the backdrop is perfectly even and perfectly exposed, because sometimes that doesn't happen. And yeah, there's even on this side, there's some difference. It's darker on this side than it is over here, and the color's weird and it's kind of like blotchy looking. There's ways to fix that. I will show you guys how to do that. But this is this kind of is how you can use the plastic skin coupled with a couple of the other adjustments here in Beautify, the Adobe Photoshop retouch plugin, to clean up backdrops when you're shooting on seamless. This is just a Savage paper, Savage Universal seamless paper that we shot on. But yes. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you found the contents of today's video insightful and added value to you. If you're new here, please consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Also, leave us a like and a comment in the description down below. Let us know if I overlooked something or I missed something covered in today's video. This is Devon Lennox. You know where to find us. Photography. .com.